Hi, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, depending on when you see this video. For me, it's the afternoon. I worked for many years a guy by the name of Panopticon who died just a few weeks ago. And he and I, we worked for a company called BlackBook. And we distributed these things to an ad-based list, which doesn't exist anymore. They were bought by Agency Access that distributed these books to art buyers and people who would use these services. We also, BlackBook published a magazine, and I did that. In fact, I launched this magazine for BlackBook. And I think it was a big success, and of course inside are all the artists. And I think this launched in 2006, and was a fan of it. But unfortunately, the company decided they didn't want to do any more of them, and which wasn't right, because people like me had been promised that we would be able to sell these. And there was a lawsuit, and of course the side of the people who wanted to sell it won, and so then Panopticon owned a company, and then he died, which I'm sure, you know, I mean, that made things kind of hard on me, because now I was expecting to work, and I don't have a job for another time, because this company, I don't think, believed in their product. I really don't. I think they didn't think that books distributed to art directors, the art directors would take them seriously. In fact, there was a fear that they would throw them out. It would cost $4 to distribute, and each book, so forget the printing cost, which is cheap, to distribute these books is expensive. Actually, almost $5, depending on the weight of the book. Some of the black books are really heavy. So the website became profitable, and they were marketing that, and then they decided they didn't want to do that. They didn't want to be a web company. So essentially, no more BlackBook. There's no more BlackBook. But I have an idea that I think will work better than BlackBooks, and it's called the Panopticon's BlackBook. And so here's what the BlackBook, and this is what a Panopticon's looks like. All right, it's a prison system. I'm not sure if you can see this, but in prisons, they put people into Panopticons as a way to surveillance them, and that was, here's another example of a prison, and as you can see, here's a prisoner. Now, that's a very interesting concept, putting photographers, illustrators, filmmakers, stylists, illustrators, and whatnot into the prison system. But the whole thing with prisons are that they force the supervisor to surveillance the prisoners. So it's a system of greater views. People can see what is available. And it would be a great system as well for a gallery or a virtual gallery. All right. Now, this is actually from Foucault's Discipline and Punish, ironically enough. Now, I think it's kind of ironic that I should think that creative work should be presented in the prison system, but when you're surveillancing people, that's the same technology that would optimize an art gallery, right? So I'm going to make an application, a Panopticon's application for smartphones, and each prison cell will contain a BlackBook. No, not the BlackBook. They don't print those anymore. But a virtual BlackBook, okay? These will be in each prison cell. And each BlackBook Panopticon's Black Book, all right, will have a subject, and there are going to be 10 of them, all right? The first subject is context. That's how the process of making a creative project, particularly now that things are time-based, 4-dimensional, sometimes 5-dimensional if they're interactive, cartoon, caricature, animation, digital imaging, but it could also context could also include web design, because it has a certain amount of plot that it carries through and is able to make a decision based on how you interact with it. So context is the first Black Book. All right. The second Black Book is subject. So that would be action and adventure, sports and fitness, fantasy and sci-fi, children and animal. Those are all very popular subjects for people that market to the traditional advertising agency system, also corporate system, which is action, adventure, sports and fitness, fantasy, sci-fi, children, and animal. Those are subjects. All right, then we also have another Black Book called for object. All right, that's still lifes, because still life is big for everything. Illustration, photography, stylists, food and drink, obviously, landscapes, gardens, botanical. So all objects, all subjective to the subject, because the subject is the person that is taking part in action, adventure, sports and fitness, fantasy, sci-fi, children, animal, but they have in their hand an object. In this case, this object is a Black Book. And this is all virtually, because this is an application. So object book, all right? You with me? Then we also have the concept book. The concept book is conceptual and humor, all right? And then we have a relativity book. The relativity book is architecture and automobile and transportation. Relativity are things out there that are proportioned relative to the subject. So we have a book all for relativity, all right? And again, on a market that's for example, architectural photographers would be in there, automotive photographers would be in there, and transportation photographers would be in there. They would be concerned with an artificial landscape, structures. I could call it, I actually had another name, structure, but I think relativity is a less firm structure. So we especially with moving objects, I think relativity well, we can argue about that later. Next, all right. The next Black Book is going to be called Report. Report, I guess back in the book days, when I worked for the Black Book, we had something called the AR-100. And the AR-100 was a corporate annual reports book. Now, we're not going to, obviously there's no more annual reports. So the AR-100, and I was actually the last person to do the AR-100, by the way, as well. But this is going to be a report book. It's going to be a virtual book. It's in this prison Panopticon, all right? It's going to be corporate and finance, medical, health, and science. All different types of reports, constant reports, daily, hourly, Twitter updates. It's going to be a report book, and illustration and photography and filmmaking that relates to corporate reporting and medical, obviously, reporting and science reporting and government reporting, which are, this is a report book. All right, this report is in a prison cell that you'd be able to enter into and you'd be able to read, which would have images in it, just like the old Black Book did. All right? So the next Black Book is going to be the big one, the one that everybody is going to look at first, but actually it's going to be a very competitive market. It's culture, which is obviously fashion, people and lifestyle, celebrity, beauty, and portrait, all in the culture book, the Black Book culture book, all right? And the final one is going to be, of course, the distribution book. The distribution book is where representatives, agents, galleries, directories, the entire industry, people that aren't those people that are in the other 8 places, they're going to be there. So actually, I'm thinking about putting the, what's called, I guess not the gallery, what's called the distribution, is to put it in the center. So you're actually standing on distribution in this virtual app, all right? You're always at distribution. But there you'll be able to look at reps, galleries, collectives, directories, what have you, people that decide this market. It's people just like this application that I'm talking about. And again, this application will be available from major reps' websites. So distribution is not a problem. Plus, distribution will be notified based on the ad-based email list, which is not expensive to buy. So the expensive part of this is actually going to be the widget. We're going to go to a company and we're going to raise about $50,000 to do this widget. It might be $40,000 and $10,000 for the distribution. If distribution turns out to be more than I think. But we're going to have, basically, I need to sell about $50,000 of this widget for this to go into distribution, which is not a problem. When I worked for BlackBook, I sold myself about $500,000 every year, on average. So, you know, you're talking about $50,000. That's like 1/8 of what I had brought in with BlackBook. Plus, I'm going to be able to help my customers because this is my own thing. But again, I was the last person to actually successfully sell this product, BlackBook Raw Magazine and BlackBook. And I did so because I was able to relate to people, and because the reason was because I was a really, really, really persuasive and I was able to, I was able to get to the point. All right. Now, I'm going to do this all over again. It's not a BlackBook anymore. This is a BlackBook application. And if you're interested, please call me. My number is 646-504-6624. It's my Panopticons. And the Panopticon's BlackBook. And you can also reach me on Twitter at @MyBlackBookMag, all right? Which was agreed with the BlackBook Magazine, and the BlackBook was separate. I had an agreement with the owner of BlackBook who understood that social media was something different. So this is something different. We don't actually publish a BlackBook. We can also be found on Facebook at Creative BlackBook, or facebook.com Creative BlackBook, or on Twitter at @MyBlackBookMag. And my phone number is 646-504-6624. It's the Panopticon's BlackBook. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks. Bye.